many people have covered this. I went to Microsoft, did the thing, ended up being in many ways the face of a lot of stuff at Microsoft. I ended up like being the MC of the company meeting with 37,000 employees and stuff. It's craziness. And I left to start a company to do finance for games because we had failed with Xbox. And I was really serious about this. I'd learned a lot about business, and I'd learned a lot. We failed to really ignite any new franchises in the way that PlayStation was doing and Nintendo. And I thought, all right, well, fine. So I know everyone now. I can do that. So I started a games finance company and ended up being absorbed, i.e. hired by Creative Artists Agency, which is this big talent agency I knew nothing about. And I had a lot to learn about everything still. And so I ended up in Beverly Hills in a suit with, an assistant at this talent agency. I worked there for 10 years and ended up in charge of the department. And I ended up, with all these guys working for me and their assistants, in Beverly Hills in a super fancy office. And there are a lot of stories and a lot of crazy things. But that's how it came to pass that I got a call from Universal. And they said that, that CAA's client, right? I mean, I would see Steven Spielberg in these meetings and he would like flick peanuts at me and shit in these meetings because he was like, what the fuck are you doing as an agent? And he would say to me, I don't like you in this job. I was like, okay. And of course, all these other talent agents around are like, how does he know Seamus? What the fuck is this? And why is he saying he doesn't like him in this job? So I got a call from the guys at Universal, from Bill Kispert and Pete Wannett, who Pete Wannett, who was also a client of ours as a games producer, saying that Steven wanted to do a new Jurassic Park property, and that shouldn't we have another bite at a Trespasser like game, and right the wrongs. And okay. I was a little bit shocked because it was really out of the blue, and I had really kind of got myself trapped in this job because I was finding financing for all sorts of my friends, and so like from like Guitar Hero to, I mean, all sorts of big games. I mean, I guess culminating in the sort of defection of Infinity Ward to become Respawn after Bobby Kotick refused to pay them their royalty after they made him $1 billion, which I orchestrated and took a lot of heat for. A lot of people were dependent upon me in a real way. They were trusting me, like, to make sure that they were going to get funded and they could own their IP for their games and stuff. And so I felt trapped because I didn't like doing it, but I couldn't let everybody down. But so what it took to get me out after, almost 10 years there was basically Steven Spielberg talking to the head of the agency saying, Seamus didn't come work on Jurassic Park. And it was like, I was out. I was done. I was fine. There was a reason. And so I started working, and I had to write a story for Steven, and then I had to present it to the heads of Universal. There were two heads at that time, two co-presidents of Universal. And that went great. I went for this meeting. That was like, some kind of weird movie scene, where I parked and went up, and they were all there, and I gave them the story, and they all loved it. The thesis was the audience doesn't want to kill dinosaurs, they want to be friends. And Walking with Dinosaurs had done really well recently, and it was certainly my feeling always was like, especially with the Velociraptors, like I looked at Jurassic Park and I looked at the sequels, less so maybe, and I thought, what would happen if we weren't continuously trying to kill them and restrain them? Like, what would happen if we had a different relationship with them, and we've brought these Earthlings back to life, and isn't it our responsibility, if we presume a world where this all really happened, wouldn't it be our responsibility, since we revived them, to share the planet with them and figure out how to do that? And how would you do that? And aren't they really smart? And if they're really smart, wouldn't they get it that you're another predator? And so that's what I ran with. And they liked it. They loved it. And then Kathy Kennedy called and said, okay, so Steven would like you to make him a trailer. And I was like, cool.
No pressure.
All right. So, I had hired a bunch of concept artists, chief among them Ian McKegg, who is a dear friend of mine and who I love, and his daughter Mishi and other guys that he knew. And then I found some local talent here, 3D artists, who one of whom was a paleontologist who had become a 3D artist here in Pasadena. And I found some experts at UCLA in flying dinosaurs and in the aerodynamics and biomechanics of pterosaurs. Because I thought, look, the films showed pterosaurs with the island abandoned, they're going to get out. And you've read the story treatment and the game designs. You know what the deal with that is, and I assume we will share that with our audience. And so I thought, all right, well, let's have the coolest pterosaurs, and let's base the trailer on that, because if the dinosaurs are going to get out and they're going to get off Isla Sorna, the big pterosaurs are going to be the first ones the world sees. So what's the most interesting thing they could do? And that's how we ended up with that trailer. And I didn't realize that all this shit had leaked, and it, like I said on Twitter, it must have been very confusing for everybody in the fandom that this random trailer showed up with a different logo, but the same name and slightly different than anything in the films. And then there are all these guys. I just looked at this a few weeks ago when you first talked to me about this, and I found the link to the leaked video. The analysis of it was hilarious. These guys making all this stuff up about what the trailer was and what Steven thought and all of this. That's really funny to read. That's actually a really good time. And I don't mean to insult them. I think they were, I assume that they were trying to research those things in good faith. And it's like the game of telephone. Like, nobody's really trying to make anything up. But in aggregate, after you talk to 50 people, there's a whole story that never happened. So anyway, so you've got, so that's what happened. So we finished the trailer, and, and Ian really, bore the brunt of that. And did just a terrific job. And we found music. I was going to originally use the Trespasser music, but that was mainly used for the story reel, which I see you have unearthed, which was another thing that we produced. Anyway, so I sent the trailer off to Steven, and then I didn't hear back. And I was like climbing the fucking walls. I was literally freaking out. What do you do? How do you pass the time after you send your Jurassic Park sequel trailer to Steven Spielberg? What the fuck do you do to distract yourself while you wait? And I waited, and finally I emailed Kathy, and I was like, so did he like it? And she wrote, oh, of course, yeah, he loved it.
I was like, thanks for telling me.
Okay. Okay, fine. And so then we had a screening of the trailer for the Universal executives in the executive screening room at Universal.
Wow.
Which was pretty cool. And on the big screen, it's great, especially in that last cut where you have the Quetzalcoatlus like flying into the frame. actually got them to scream in the big theater, because it was dark, and it's in surround sound. I don't know if the copy on YouTube is in surround sound or not, but it's cool. So did all that and pitched it, and I started hiring a team. I got an engine. I had, space that I was starting to convert, and I thought it was a really strong game design. I have prototypes of the gameplay in 2D where you play the protagonist, and you have 2 or 3 signals you can give to velociraptors, and just to see what it was like. So you're hunted by guys who have guns, and you have a team of velociraptors, and you have a pistol. So you can shoot, and you can command the velociraptors. And I have all of these studies of gameplay and how you do it. And it was a super fun game, because the velociraptors kind of flock to you, but they have intelligence, and you give the commands. and it's awesome. It was so fun. And so, I did the thing that I like to do when I design games, which is to start with the gameplay, and that was fun. And so then we were going to, bring that up into 3D, kind of the same way that like Grand Theft Auto went from a 2D top down game into 3D. And then the president of Universal was fired, and the other co-president Donna took over. And I heard that she didn't like games or didn't feel comfortable funding games or something. And suddenly Universal wasn't going to fund this. And also, could I please send everything, all my assets and everything to Frank Marshall, who, but he's a wonderful guy. I love Frank, because they're going to make a film. And the film just happens to have the same exact name. And I was like, what? And I was assured that, oh, no, it's a complete coincidence. And like, okay, you be the judge of that. Fine. And, I have no ill will toward anybody, but I'm not sure I believe that it just randomly had the same name. So that's what happened, and I was cool about it. It was super hard and disappointing for me. But I had also, I had another project that I was working on that I was trying to constantly shut down that wouldn't die. And so I just kind of made the other project my career at that point. And I had to give up on, being able to make good on Trespasser. And that was hard.
Yeah, I mean, what's surprising is even after Jurassic World, the movie came out, they never did make an actual like game adaptation or anything like that. The only game we ever got was the park building game.
Well, and look, and that the game guys at Universal, they're great guys. Okay, really good guys. Bill Kispert is the terrific executive, but he got burned by this all too. We went to go try to find a publisher who would fund it after, Universal said, okay, well, how we're going to fund this like a film, or we're not going to fund it like a film anymore, which was the worst. And I believe I got a call from Steven, saying, hey, we really want to use a lot of this stuff for the film. And I was like, that's fine, Steven. Because Steven Spielberg is a really good guy. But I'm not going to lie to you. Some of the concept art that you have now found, if you look at it, those were the movie posters. Like if you look at the billboards for Jurassic World, some of them are exactly the same.
Yeah.
As the concept art. And so when I would drive around LA at that time and see them, that was super hard. It wasn't easy. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly took some elements from looking at the documents. I mean, like the relationship between the game character and the raptors. I mean, that's totally like Owen and the raptors in Jurassic World.
And the lead female raptor being blue and called Blue, all that stuff.
Yes.
so and but that's all fine. And I mean, I really have to tell you, like, there's a story here where, which is not true, where I feel all bitter about this. But Frank Marshall's a stand-up guy. Steven Spielberg is a really good guy. Like Universal made a business decision, the presidents of Universal, and it fucking sucked and it was wrong. And it was a bad call. But everybody else just had to deal with it. And they dealt with it, like adults and like caring people. And they were nice about it. Kathy Kennedy was super nice about it. Okay. So, it happened and they owned everything because they paid for it all.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And in a way, I guess it is pretty gratifying that they liked, what you did so much that elements did end up in the movie. I mean, that is like a compliment.
And it's one of the weird things about being Seamus Blackley, I got to be honest with you, is that I know people like as a physicist, or I know people like in my current job as a CEO or from games, and or like my son, I was playing the trailer and looking at some of the stuff that you have now with him, and he was like, "Wait, you made this?" And I'm like, "Well, fuck off!" Like, "Fuck yes, I could do that." And so like having people being surprised, oh my God, you can write? Like, yeah, yeah. So it's
That's great.
it's yeah, whatever. It's odd, and it's just but at the end of the day, I think for me, there's just something about Jurassic Park that's bad luck for me.
Oh
With
no.
with one great counterexample, which is that my awesome smoking hot wife, Caroline, was, as you know, the art department coordinator on Jurassic Park. It was her first job out of art school, and I mean, she was such a part of it that she actually appears in stills in the movie, like in the slideshow and stuff, and on brochures. You forwarded to me the test of the kitchen scene where Caroline played the part of the girl crawling around, and she even suggested a joke that got in the movie. She told a stupid dad joke that her dad told her to Steven, and he put it in the film. And we have I think I sent you a picture of this. We have that script page in our bathroom now. So that's it really all ties together. And the great thing, it turns out, that I got out of Jurassic World and Jurassic Park wasn't the game. It was my whole life. So it's good.
Yeah, I mean, what could be better than that, right? And
I assure you, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the joke that she contributed. The "Do you think he saw us?" joke, which
Yeah.
is everyone loves that joke. It's so goofy, but it's so great.
That came from my wife, the 24-year-old like art department coordinator, or 22-year-old art department coordinator, fresh from England, like not understanding how she was suddenly at Amblin doing all of this, telling silly jokes. It's the best. Hold on just a second. There's Caroline. Caroline, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So tell me the story of when you told the joke, and you told it to Steven, and then nothing happened, and then suddenly it was in the film, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so tell it.
All right. So I was sitting at my desk. My desk was in the bungalows at Amblin, and so I was right by the door, and anyone who came into the art department would always walk past my desk. And I was next to another set designer called Paul Sonsky, and I had told him this silly joke that my dad had written to me in a letter or something, because those, it was the day before internet, and it was a joke he had heard about, the joke that ended up in the thing.
And knowing our dad now, I find it extraordinary that he would write you a joke. But okay.
Well, yes. Anyway, so I told this joke to Paul Sonsky, that day or a few days before. And so when Stephen came in the art department and said, hello, and Paul said, hey, you should tell Stephen the joke on his way out. I said, really? He said, yeah, okay. So I said, so as he's walking right past my desk on his way out the art department, I say, hi, I have a joke. So I told him the joke, and he went, oh, that's great. Do you mind if I write it down? I said, no, not at all. He said, okay, cool, thanks. All right, bye. And that was that.
There you go. And now it's in our bathroom.
Bye.
That was awesome.